In celebration of the 100th anniversary of the completion of the first transcontinental railroad, in May 1969, the High Iron Company sponsored the Golden Spike Centennial Limited, which ran from New York City to Utah and back. Brainchild of successful Wall Street stockbroker and railfan Roland, he and his High Iron Company would launch a cross-country excursion to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the driving of the Golden Spike. The attention grabber and face of the train would be newly restored nickel-plate Berkshire number 759 and a collection of 14 passenger cars, all beautifully painted in a unique light blue and silver with gold trim and accents. The starting point was Grand Central Terminal, and it was to travel to Utah and then return to Penn Station. During the trip, a planned 13 station stops were made. Here, guests were able to tour the cab of the locomotive as well as the specially designed display cars and marvel at the large array of classic passenger cars. The train was so popular, in fact, that in 3 cities the crew kept the entire train open all night so no one would miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. For those fortunate enough to snag a ride aboard, they were able to take a step back in time for a ride behind the stunning locomotive and could watch the scenery go by in classic comfort. Passengers also had an option of riding the iconic dome car or specially built open-air car to feel the cool summer breeze as the train rocketed down the line. The train was a hit for celebrities as well, as for the last leg of the trip, John Wayne himself hopped aboard for the last day of the westbound excursion. A variety of motive power was used for the excursion, though the bulk of the work was performed by Nickel Plate Road number 759. Several electrics were used for the journey, including a Penn Central P motor and a GG1, specially painted in the American Railroad's livery to match the train. The Union Pacific carried the torch during the western portion of the trip. Power included the newly delivered DDA-40X Centennial diesel locomotive number 6900 and an ABB set of Union Pacific E units. However, there was another steam star that powered the train, and that was none other than living legend herself, Union Pacific 8444. The train hit it out of the ballpark and was a massive success with the general public. Thousands toured the train, and many thousands more stood by the right-of-way as the blue and silver streak thundered down the track. It was living proof that America still loved her railroads, and cross-country steam excursions were possible if done well. Thanks to the Golden Spike Centennial Limited, it laid down the groundwork that helped make the success of the American Freedom Train 6 years later. Now, over 50 years later, let's pay tribute to this amazing excursion as we appreciate the train in model form in the 21st century. We catch up with the Golden Spike Centennial Limited, fresh off the main line as she makes her first station stop on the North Juniper and Ashton Scenic Railroad. Rail fans have arrived in droves today as it'll be a once-in-a-lifetime photo opportunity as the train will be handed over today to the Union Pacific Steam Team for the western leg of the trip. With her whistle announcing her arrival, Roland brings the engine to a full stop just outside the town limits of Ashton. Here, she will wait for further instructions before proceeding into town and meeting up with the legendary Union Pacific Northern number 844. Meanwhile, the aforementioned special guest is making her grand arrival at Ashton. Having arrived at the railroad the previous night, the Union Pacific Steam Team worked throughout the late hours of the night to make sure 844 could have a smooth journey all the way up to Utah. Thankfully, the station master made extra sure that there was no shortage of coffee this morning. Like a meeting between lost friends, 759's whistle echoed throughout the mountainside, and a whistle battle broke out between the two steam foundations. With a little bit of imagination, it was almost like the engines were talking with each other. Seeing the engines side by side, you could almost feel the brute strength and power between them. Many handshakes and bad jokes were exchanged between crews, a moment of peace and camaraderie before the long journey ahead. For the crew of the 759, it was the closing chapter on this leg of the journey, and a brand new adventure for the 844. Final pictures were taken, and a metaphorical changing of the guard was about to take place. With a hiss of the air brakes and a clanking of couplers, 759 detaches the last time of a westbound trip. With the engines lined up side by side, and a fresh engine and crew on point, a very mixed feeling washed over the crowd. Now, it was 844's turn to lead the next leg of the journey. However, this would be the last time the engines would see one another. The crew sounded their farewells, and in a chorus of whistles, the journey would begin anew. Once given the green, the mighty Northern continued westward onto Utah, the new ambassador to America's railroads. As the train rushes past North Juniper Yards, this is where we will leave 844. We will meet up with the train again, but for now, our story comes to a close. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed learning about this lesser-known excursion. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing and leaving a like. Don't forget to click the bell icon for notifications, and we'll see you next time.